Hey crafty friends, it's Jen from Guillotine Crafts and I welcome you to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel today. For today's card, I created a fun Slimline Halloween card. I absolutely love fall and Halloween and creating DIY projects and cards. I love this time of year. All the cute little funny stuff. I'm not into the creepy stuff, I just like all the cute fun stuff with it. For my card today, I am featuring Honeybee Stamps Trick or Treat. Isn't this sweet? I had to have this set because of the little pig. As some of my viewers know, we have a pet pig, so I love everything with little pigs, and this can be like the best of both worlds, Halloween and a cute piggy. And I have the coordinating dies that go with it. And then I'm also using the little graves that were in my Halloween house, haunted house add-on from Honeybee. Now the first thing I did was stamped out all of my images, and this is a very heavily colored card, so we've got lots of coloring to do. Right now I am using my Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, which is Copic marker friendly, and I'm going to use my Misti stamping tool, and I'm going to ink this up probably two or three times and get really crisp clean images. And then I'm going to go ahead and use those coordinating dies to cut those out. And now let all the fun coloring begin. Like I said, there is a lot of images and a lot of coloring to this card, so I am going to speed that up, else you would be here all day with me. And I'm sure that you have other lots of fun YouTube videos to watch. So what I'm going to do is put a base of warm gray W1 down on these gravestones, and that is just helping start out the saturation of the ink. And I'm going to go back in with a W3 and add some more ink to that, and I wanted it a little bit darker than what the W1 was. And then I'm going to work on my shading. I'm thinking about how the moon is hitting this scene, and so I'm thinking about that with my highlights and my shadows. So I'm thinking that the moon is hitting from the top, so I want the bottoms to be a lot more shadowed. So I'm going to just keep working that out with all these warm grays, going all the way to a W9 eventually, and just getting that a little bit darker as we go down the gravestones. And then I'm going to take the W3 and blend that all back out, and then you have smooth transitions. And if it was not quite as smooth as you want, you can go back in with one of those other lighter colors and fill those back in until the desired effect. So I'm going to do all of this gravestones the same exact way, but I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to work on the pumpkins. And we're going to do a little YR, which is the yellow reds on this little tiny pumpkin, and a little bit of a green on the stem. And as you can see, I'm putting all of my caps, so you can slow this down if you wanted to see those a little clearer or a little slower, and you can check that out. I'm just kind of like speed coloring though for you, because like I said, there's lots and lots of coloring involved in this. And I just wanted a little bit of shadows on those ghosts instead of them being stark white. So I'm going in with the cool grays on those. Lots of grays in this. So I tried to change it up between my neutral grays, my warm tones, and my cool grays. So this, you can see I'm using the neutral tones for the tree. And really I'm just kind of looking for that dark silhouette because it's at nighttime, the scene. So I wanted those silhouetted. But I also wanted to have a little bit of dimension and shading on there. So there's a lot of different details on these, as you can see. So it's really quite simple or quite easy to get your shading effect because there's the different sections. So I'm just going to keep using those neutral grays. And as you can see, I use every other when I'm doing my coloring. So if I start with N1, then I go 3, 5, 7, and so on. That's just the way I like to do it, to bump up by that one step, I guess is what you can call it. So if I were to start with 2, I would do 2, 4, 6, 8, and that's just my way of doing it. Everybody finds their own method, but that's the way I like to do it when I'm doing my blending, especially if it's in the same color family. And so I'm just going to keep building that up to my darkest color. And then I'm going to set that aside and do the other tree the same exact way. And now I'm moving on to these cute little fences. And I did want them to kind of look like the iron fences. So I'm going to do those in dark as well. But these have enough patterns that I could have used browns. So you could use this in a nice fall scene as well and make that a nice cute fall little fence. And there are two different dies that come with the set for the fence. One doesn't have all the details with the little in between holes between the posts. That other one you can just get all the way around the fencing. But I wanted those details because I wanted that back of the scene to go through it. If you were going to do your background maybe with Copic markers and not Oxide inks, you could just color in the middle of the fence line and blend that with your background. But in order for me to have my background blended, I decided to do the more detailed cut of that. So now it's time to color in our little Franken piggy. How cute is this? So I am going to make this pig green, but I am leaving the nose white right now because I'm going to touch that up with this RO2 because our pig has a pink nose. She is a black pig with a cute little pink nose. So I was trying to mimic her with that. And then I'm going to move on to these other cute little characters and do all the detail coloring. Now, do you all like Halloween? You can drop a comment below and let me know. Do you like the cute part of it like I do? I love fall colors and I love the fall decor. I guess I don't really decorate a lot for summer, but I go all out for Halloween and fall. And like I said, not the creepy stuff. Like all my stuff is really cutesy that I have around. We do have like a little graveyard with some fake little ghost, well, obviously fake ghost, with some cute little light up ghost out front. And then I had the kids each make scarecrows in their old clothes. So each one of them have a cute little scarecrow of themselves out in front. And I have hay bales and pumpkins and corn stalks. I love all that stuff. This is my time of year. I think I decorate more for fall than I do for winter or Christmas. One is because of where I live, I think, because I live in northern Maine and we tend to get a lot of snow, so it's a lot harder to decorate outside in the winter months, and I'm too cold. I don't like being cold, so the fall is perfect, especially this fall. We've had a very mild September here in northern Maine. How is everybody else doing with that? We're having great weather. And another fun thing I like to do in fall is take the kids to the corn maze and go to the pumpkin patches, pick apples. I like all those fall activities. And of course, our piggy likes apples. So we gather up buckets of them if they fall off the trees and um yeah, and keep her some apples. We keep them in the basement. So if any of us have to go to the basement, she knows that's where the apples are. And she will start going kind of crazy if she hears that basement door open because she knows that she can get an apple treat because somebody is down there. And that has been since she was little. It's kind of funny. So sometimes if it's, not apple season and we go down, she still freaks out a bit. It's been a while since I've done a card with this much coloring, so it's kind of nice to just chat with everybody as my coloring is on screen. And it was also nice doing all this Copic marker coloring. I've been doing different types of cards with die cuts and stuff like that this summer. A lot more of just solid stamping and not all of my cute little characters and critters that I love so much. Honeybee Stamps is definitely one of my favorite companies, and you can find all of their stamps pretty much at ScrapbookPal, so make sure you check that out. They just had this great fall release. I had to get all of it pretty much because it's amazing. Now, for our little gravestones, I wanted to have some sort of markings on them or writing, but I didn't really want to have to get into too much detail. So the three that are in the front, I kind of did like a little RIP and a date, but then I was thinking that the lettering underneath would be not legible from a distance. So I kind of just made little squiggle marks on all of those, and that's how I put some markings on there. To start the background, I cut an 8 3/4 by 3 3/4 piece of paper, which will be perfect for a 9x4 slimline card. I used some masking tape. You could use a Post-it, whatever you would like to do, in a circle punch and just cut out a section for the moon. And I stuck that to the upper left-hand corner. And now I'm using Lawn Fawn's Hillside stencil to mark out where I want the skyline and then the grass line to be. And I'm going to use my favorite things, Rolling Clouds die or stencil. That is one of my favorites. I use this often because there's all different sides to it, and so you have different options for the clouds, and I just keep turning it and flipping it and moving it around. And you can see I'm using Dusty Concord Distress Oxide ink right now. I'm not using a lot of ink because a little goes a long way, and I'm building up this background, so I don't need a whole lot of ink because I'm going to be doing several different layers. So I'm just moving that down. I don't want to have a big line between my horizon. I don't want a big horizon line. And now I'm going to use some chipped sapphire because I am creating a nighttime spooky sky, semi-spooky sky, I guess. And I'm going to just move those clouds all around. Like I said, this is a great stencil because you can go in all the different spots. You don't have to go across it. You can just use little sections. You can see how I'm using it in all different ways. And look at the way it's building up that sky. That is so super cute, and it looks like a bunch of clouds. It looks like a nice cloudy Halloween. And next I'm going to just fill in a little bit of that. Again, I'm trying not to get that stark white line in the horizon. And I'm going to use some black soot just to tone everything down and give it that nighttime look. And I'm not going to be very heavy-handed with this. I'm going to go very light. I just want a very light, and I don't want to blend it too hard so I lose those edges from the clouds. And I'm going to leave that spot that's quite bright by the moon. And I'm going to flip this around until I find the negative space, and now I can cover up and protect my sky when I start working on my ground. And I'm going to use Mowed Lawn, and I wanted it to be nice and bright. I did try to do this with the Forest Moss Distress Oxide, and that got too dark and muddy kind of looking. So I wanted this to be a bright, fun card, and so that just didn't work. So I'm going to save you that trouble. The Mowed Lawn definitely looked a lot better. And now I use index cards or scrap pieces of paper so my grubby little fingers don't get little fingerprints all over. But you can see you have to move that around and try not to blend on top of that, else you're going to get that line like I just did. And I'm going to get another one because because I wasn't moving that as well as I should. And I'm going to adjust that stencil again, trying to get it so I don't have that white line between the ground and the sky. And I like the way that it's uneven with my blending because the grass isn't all the same color, right? So I like the way it almost looks yellow with the mowed lawn and then dark green in spots. I like that. So now I'm going to go again with that black soot because again, it is night, so I have to get that tone down just a little bit. I'm trying to go as light as I can. I had a little bit weird ink left on that brush, so I did get a couple little sploots. And see, there's the mistake again. Yeah, don't do what I'm doing with that index card. Don't get that line there. Yikes. Yeah, I just have to work that out a bit. And I'm gonna, the nice thing with Oxide inks is that they do layer. So I'm just gonna layer that. And I didn't want it, like I said, to be too dark. So layering some more of that bright green was okay. I wanted it to have enough contrast between the gravestones like this and the grass so you could see the difference and they would pop a little bit. So I'm just going to keep on adding a little bit of that green and getting it to my desired effect. Once I get that all blended to how I like it, I'm going to use my distress sprayer and spritz the whole background. I like the look that gives. It gives kind of like a starry sky and then some interest and texture on the bottom. And then I'm just going to blot that with a paper towel. And I'm going to set that aside, clean up my area when that dries, and then move on to removing that mask from the moon. And you can see how nice and bright white that is. But we don't want to keep it that way for too long. So I'm going to use a little Oxide inks and an antique linen. And again, with my index card because of my grubby little fingers. And it also kind of makes the craters look in the moon, I think. Just the unevenness. If you push a little harder on some spots than others, you kind of get that unevenness. Now I've planned out my whole card. which I kind of had an idea going into it how I wanted it to look. So I just placed everything where I wanted it to be, and now I just have to go back in and glue that all down. And I knew that I was going to have two of those little cute fences to go across, and I'm not going to worry about that seam because I'm going to cover that up with my pig, and I am going to put that in the middle because I want to highlight my favorite character, my favorite little critter. And now I'm just going to go ahead and create my little graveyard. I am kind of giving the whole card a kind of a symmetrical look, and I like the way that that balanced it out. I'm giving some shocks of color with those cute little pumpkins, and then I'm going to tuck in the ghosts behind certain graves just to make it look like, you know, like they're popping out from behind it. And with the Oxide inks, I have enough of a layer down there that if the glue does touch it, it does react with it. So I just have to be careful when I'm planning that out that I'm going to actually put it down and place it where I want it to actually be if it's going to be wet with the glue. Because once it's there, it's there. I can't move it because of the underneath is going to be ruined then, or, you know, changed. And you're going to see that in a second because I am going to remove that pumpkin to pop it up, and so you can see how the Oxide ink did react with the wet glue. And I do like using liquid glue because you do have a little bit of wiggle room, and I love this precision tip because of all those fine details like on the fence and on that tree. It gets into all those little details for you. And then I just move that ghost so it would be on top of the tree so it looks like it's in front. And I'm trying to give this some perspective and some dimension with the way I'm placing things. That's why I put those larger gravestones in the front and then all the way back to the smaller ones, trying to get that depth of field. That was my goal. I don't know, maybe, hopefully I did that. I think it's cute. I love the little scene. I have some other cards that are planned that are Halloween type. And now I wanted to give it more dimension, and by popping up quite a bit of different elements on the card. So the three characters in the front are definitely popped. And I'm not using a very thick pop or foam dots. I'm just using some thinner ones. And you can see there where I removed that pumpkin, and you can see how the glue did react with the ink. So once it's there, unless you're going to do what I just did and popped it up. And that covers up that spot again. And I'm going to pop up some of those cobwebs, but not everything. I'm going to give some other things are going to be flat so you can get that balance of the different dimension. And I'm just going to play with where I thought that it looked cutest. I'm going to tuck that little pumpkin up underneath that tree. And then I decided to put that other pumpkin on the other side to make that symmetrical look again. And then, as you can see, that cobweb was flat, and then this little bat is going to be down just on the paper. But then the next one I'm going to pop up. So just changing it up a bit, and that helps give a little bit more interest to your card. And there. We have all of our images completely put onto the page. And now I just wanted to give that a little bit more concreteness, make it look like it's really there on the ground with some more shadows. So I'm just using my Copic marker and just creating small little shadows. And that will soak into the card, so it's not going to be anything harsh. So just a little bit, just to go underneath a little bit of everything. I thought that the ghosts probably wouldn't have shadows because, you know, they're ghosts, so I didn't worry about that. But I put everything else a little bit of a shadow to make them a little more grounded. All right, now I had to add some shimmer because I love shimmer and shine. So I'm going to use my Wink of Stella clear pen and just go over and give a little bit of sparkle to some of those images. I like doing a little bit on the little witch's outfit and on the pumpkins, and then the little trick-or-treat bag or pumpkin, the trick-or-treat pumpkin. And as you can see, I kind of wipe it in between the colors on my finger. That is just to make sure that I don't get any bleeding. I never honestly ever have, but it's just kind of something that it's a habit. And if I'm going from a dark color to a light color, I just worry about it. So that's just one of those things that I do. Now I'm just going to snip off anything that was overhanging and make that card flush. And then I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock to 8.5 or 8 by 9, and then I'm going to score it at the 4-inch mark and fold that over. And then this is when I decided that I wanted a little bit of a frame behind my card to make that pop even more onto that white background. So I cut a piece of black cardstock 8 7/8 by 3 7/8. And that way just gives a little bit of a frame all around that card. So I'm going to adhere that down to the black cardstock, and then I'm going to adhere the black cardstock to my card base. And once I get that all glued together, I had to choose a sentiment. There's some cute little sayings on the stamp set, the trick or treat stamp set. One is literally trick or treat. One is too cute to spook, spooky. And then you have treat yourself. They're really super cute. There's a little boo that you could have the characters saying boo to each other. I'm going to ultimately pick treat yourself, and I'm going to stamp that inside my card and not worry about a sentiment on the front, just because I think that there's enough going on there, and it can open up and you can there'll be plenty of space there to write a personalized message to somebody, and who wouldn't love to get this card? In order to line up my stamp on the stamp block, I'm using my grid on my mat and lining that up just to give me a little bit of help, because I hate stamping without my Misti, honestly, but I'm gonna go for it. So I line that up with the grid, and then I'm giving it a good push, and not bad. That is always one of my worries. A beautiful card finished and then stamp something on the inside and mess it up, but hey, I did okay this time. And now I am done with this cute trick-or-treat slimline card featuring honeybee stamps. Thank you so much for crafting with me today. I appreciate it. You can find everything I used today at ScrapbookPal.com. They have a great store with fast shipping and lots of items. My favorite, like I said, honeybee stamps is one of my very favorites. They have a great selection of all their goodies. Make sure you check that out real soon. Their fall release was amazing. Thank you so much for crafting with me again today. I am Jen from Concord Crafts, and I will see you again next month. Thank you. Take care.